Imagine stepping into a city at dusk, and instead of that harsh glare of streetlights, the buildings themselves just start to emit this soft, almost ethereal glow.
Hmm.
Not from electric bulbs, but from actual living
Right,
organisms.
a living light.
Yeah, think of this gentle, kind of evolving luminescence, a light that literally breathes, changes with its environment. What if our future urban landscapes could be illuminated not really by technology, but by nature itself?
It's a vision that, yeah, it sounds like something straight out of science fiction, doesn't it? But it's actually far more tangible than you might think.
Really?
Oh, yeah. This isn't just a fantasy. It's a burgeoning reality. It's happening.
And it's precisely what we're plunging into today. Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we explore this captivating world where biology, well, it meets architecture specifically, this groundbreaking field of bioluminescent architecture.
Exactly. And this isn't some distant dream, like you said. It's happening right now in labs, in pioneering urban spaces across the globe.
So our mission for this deep dive is to really unpack the fascinating science behind bioluminescence, maybe go a bit beyond just knowing things glow.
Right. We want to explore how this diverse array of organisms are being, well, meticulously harnessed for architectural lighting. And crucially, uncover the incredible potential this has for creating sustainable, responsive, truly living structures.
Structures that might just redefine our fundamental relationship with the built environment as we know it.
Absolutely. A total shift.
And to guide us through this luminous journey, we've pulled together an incredible stack of sources. We'll be drawing insights from some really cutting-edge research, institutions like the Royal Danish Academy, the Institute for Advanced Architecture of Catalonia. They're really pushing the boundaries here.
Yeah, they're doing some amazing work, and we've complemented that deep research with insightful articles from publications like Time Out, Direct Industry e-magazine, and Neuroject as well. So these give us a really comprehensive, kind of well-rounded look at the state of the art in this field, which is, evolving incredibly quickly. It shows us both the scientific breakthroughs and the practical applications starting to take shape.
Fantastic. So let's dim the conventional lights, figuratively speaking, and illuminate this extraordinary topic. Okay, so to really appreciate the architectural side of things, we first need to get a grip on the fundamental phenomenon itself, bioluminescence.
Right.
At its core, it's simply the emission of light by living organisms. It's a natural marvel. You find it across incredibly diverse ecosystems, deep oceans, quiet forest floors.
It's light born from life. And what's truly fascinating here isn't just that organisms glow, but why they do it. It's not just for show, right?
It serves a purpose.
Oh, definitely. Our sources tell us that in nature, this light serves various critical, very purposeful functions. For instance, many insects, like fireflies, obviously, use it as an effective way to ensure mating. It's a shimmering signal in the night.
Nature's little singles bar.
Kind of. And for countless marine creatures, it's a vital defense mechanism, either startling predators with a sudden flash, or maybe creating a diversion, almost like an underwater smoke screen.
Wow.
And some organisms, notably certain fungi, actually use their glow to attract other species, like insects, to help disperse their spores. It's like a living advertisement in the dark undergrowth.
Okay, so it's purposeful, it's efficient light. That makes sense why it's appealing for sustainable architecture then.
Exactly. That purposeful efficiency is key.
So it's a purposeful light. But how do they actually do it? How does a living creature convert its internal, processes into visible light?
Ah, that's where the biochemical magic happens. The how is this highly efficient biochemical reaction. Essentially, these organisms convert chemical energy directly into light energy, and crucially, with minimal waste heat.
Okay.
Minimal heat. Think of it like a tiny, self-contained living chemical factory inside the organism. The process typically involves the oxidation, that's a reaction with oxygen of specific compounds, which are generally called luciferins.
The luciferins, got it.
Those are the light-emitting molecules. And this reaction is catalyzed or sped up by an enzyme, a protein known as luciferase.
Luciferase?
All of this happened, obviously, in the presence of oxygen. The result is this high-energy intermediate compound that then releases that excess energy as photons, as light. It's a remarkably cool process, literally cool.
The cold light thing you mentioned.
Exactly, the cold light, which is why it holds such immense promise for sustainable architectural applications where, energy efficiency is absolutely paramount.
That's incredible. And when we think of glowing creatures, yeah, most of us probably jump straight to fireflies, those sort of enchanting summer night flashes. But our sources make it really clear that bioluminescence is far, far more widespread than just those familiar backyard lights.
Absolutely. Fireflies are a great example, very iconic, but the phenomenon spans this vast array of life forms. It really showcases nature's incredible ingenuity. We see it predominantly in many marine organisms, but also, like we said, certain insects, and perhaps surprisingly to some, in a significant number of mushroom species, fungi.
Okay, can you give us a few more specific examples from the sources, maybe touch on their unique characteristics? What are some of these diverse glowing organisms doing?
Certainly. In the marine world, for instance, you find this dazzling array of glowing phytoplankton, tiny organisms that can light up huge areas of the ocean. There's krill doing the same thing, various deep-sea fish that use light to hunt or, hide.
Right.
Jellyfish are pretty notable. Our sources describe them as emitting a medium to high-intensity glow, quite visible in darkness. They tend to like humid or tropical waters, typically between 20–35 degrees Celsius.
Okay, so warmer waters?
Generally, yes.
Right.
But they do have a relatively low CO2 tolerance,
Yeah.
less than 3%, which is an important factor if you're trying to grow them in a controlled environment, say, inside a building.
Ah, good point.
Then there are dinoflagellates. These are microscopic marine algae. They're fascinating because they emit this soft, often blue-green glow, primarily when they're disturbed.
Like when a boat goes by.
Exactly. Or a fish swims past. Any movement or subtle vibration in the water triggers it. And shrimp, too. Some shrimp secrete these bioluminescent fluids. Their light is typically medium intensity, constant in water, often found way down in the deep ocean where it's much colder, maybe 10 degrees C.
Much colder, yeah.
And interestingly, they have a high CO2 tolerance, up to 10%. So that might make them potentially more robust for certain kinds of enclosed bioarchitectural systems compared to the jellyfish.
Right, different organisms, different needs, different tolerances, so a whole underwater light show. And on land, beyond the fireflies we know.
The land, besides the fireflies, which, by the way, show variable intensity, glow briefly when agitated, and tend to need saline waters around 30–35 degrees C with moderate CO2 tolerance, less than 5% our sources really place spotlight on fungi.
Glowing mushrooms.
Exactly. These bioluminescent fungi typically emit a green light. They thrive naturally on decaying organic matter. Dead bamboo, tree trunks, fallen leaves, playing that vital role in forest ecosystems as decomposers. What's particularly intriguing for architectural use is that their glow can persist for days, sometimes even longer in living cultures, and the fruiting bodies, the mushrooms themselves. That offers a consistent low-energy light source.
So more stable than a quick flash.
Much more stable. They generally operate at lower temperatures too, maybe 15–25 degrees C, though they do have a low CO2 tolerance, less than 2%. Our sources really emphasize their relatively unexplored potential in the design industry. That makes them a very exciting kind of novel avenue of research, especially given that natural persistence and low energy requirement.
That brings up that crucial point you touched on earlier. You mentioned bioluminescence is fundamentally different from, say, a traditional light bulb. What's the key distinction, again, between luminescence and incandescence, and why does that difference matter so much for sustainable design?
It's a fundamental difference, and it's absolutely central to the appeal for sustainable uses. Luminescence, like bioluminescence, produces light at low temperatures. Think of a glow stick, right? It's light without the heat.
Yeah, cold light.
It's often called cold light. Incandescence, on the other hand, generates light because something gets incredibly hot, like a traditional incandescent light bulb where a tiny wire, the filament, gets superheated until it glows.
And wastes a lot of energy as heat.
Exactly. The vast majority of the energy in an incandescent bulb is just wasted as heat, not light. This cool light production from living organisms is a massive advantage for sustainability. It means far less energy is wasted as thermal output. It's inherently more efficient, consuming only the energy needed for that specific chemical reaction, not for generating and then dissipating loads of excess heat. That's a potential game changer for reducing overall energy consumption in buildings.
That makes perfect sense. So with this understanding of bioluminescence and its, well, inherent efficiency, let's dive into a specific project that's really putting these glowing organisms to work. The Luminico project. And it seems to start by tackling some really pressing environmental challenges.
Indeed it does.
Yeah.
The Luminico project, which originated in Puerto Rico, directly confronts significant environmental issues that these bioluminescent fungi could genuinely help mitigate. And these are issues that, frankly, resonate globally.
What kind of issues are we talking about?
Well, our sources highlight that the power industry is the primary contributor to greenhouse gas emissions worldwide. In Puerto Rico specifically, the situation is particularly acute. There was an alarming 10% increase in contamination just from this sector during 2022-23 alone.
Wow, a 10% jump in just 1 year. That's huge, especially for an island.
It's a serious concern. And of those emissions, a staggering 86% are carbon dioxide, CO2, a leading driver of climate change. This surge directly contributes to critical problems like biodiversity loss, pervasive light pollution, which messes up nocturnal ecosystems, and even our own sleep patterns.
Yeah, our circadian rhythms.
Exactly. And of course, rising global temperatures. To put Puerto Rico's situation into some stark perspective, the sources present data stating that its CO2 emissions just from the power industry are 9.9% higher than Spain's total and 7.5% higher than the USA's total when you compare it specifically to their overall GHG emissions charts.
That really underscores the urgency for new, low-impact solutions for energy and lighting, doesn't it? Especially in more vulnerable regions.
Absolutely. It highlights the need for innovation.
So against this challenging backdrop, what's the fungal solution proposed by the Luminico project? How are they aiming to tackle these complex problems using glowing mushrooms?
The research proposes a really groundbreaking approach, using these bioluminescent fungi to develop biomaterial structures. They call them luminescent habitats, and the idea is brilliantly multifaceted.
Okay, more than just light then.
Much more. These habitats are designed not just to emit light, but to actively clean the air through carbon capture, literally absorbing CO2 from the atmosphere. They also aim to naturally attract beneficial luminescent species, like certain insects, which helps foster local biodiversity. And, of course, they serve as these elegant, low-intensity lighting alternatives, which could dramatically reduce the light pollution caused by conventional, often quite harsh, electric lights.
So it's a holistic approach. Light, air cleaning, biodiversity.
Exactly. It's a nature-based solution that integrates all these elements.
It sounds incredibly promising, but you mentioned earlier that fungi have been relatively unexplored in design compared to, say, algae or bacteria, which seem like maybe more obvious choices for biolighting sometimes. So why fungi specifically for this project? What makes them the ideal candidate here?
That's a great question, and it really speaks to the project's innovative spirit. Their relative obscurity in design is actually part of their appeal. It represents this vast, untapped potential. Unlike the more commonly studied bioluminescent algae and bacteria, fungi offer a novel and genuinely exciting avenue for biomaterial design.
Okay, novelty is one thing, but functionally.
Functionally, their natural glow is a key factor. It's observed best in dark, natural settings, and critically, their luminescence can persist for days in living cultures and the fruiting bodies. That offers a consistent, low-energy light source that's directly relevant for continuous architectural applications, like pathway lighting or ambient markers.
And their ecological role, you mentioned that seems important too, given the project's broader environmental aims.
Yes, their ecological role is absolutely fundamental here. Fungi naturally thrive on decaying organic matter, right? They're nature's recyclers. This makes them relatively easy to cultivate on sustainable substrates like waste wood or agricultural bioproducts.
Right.
Furthermore, their bioluminescence, it's theorized, attracts insects for spore dispersal. Essentially, the glow acts as a beacon, drawing in creatures that help the fungi reproduce and spread. This highlights a natural symbiotic relationship that can be intelligently leveraged in an architectural context.
So the fungal structure isn't just a light source, it's actually contributing to the local ecosystem.
Potentially, yes. Fostering rather than disrupting biodiversity. That's the goal.
Fascinating. So which specific species of these glowing fungi are they working with in the Luminico project, and what makes them suitable?
They focused on a few key species that show strong bioluminescence and have growth characteristics suitable for cultivation. Pinellus stypticus is one prominent example.
Pinellus stypticus.
Okay. This species is found in tropical and humid areas globally, which makes it relevant to Puerto Rico's climate, even though it's not strictly native there. It's particularly well suited because it's mycelium that's the thread-like vegetative part of the fungus.
It's roots, kind of.
Sort of, the network, yeah. That, its fruiting bodies, the mushroom itself, and even its cap all glow, so you get multiple light-emitting components.
Wow, the whole thing glows.
Pretty much. And like we said, it's known to attract insects for spore spreading and maybe as a defense. Our sources detail its growth needs.
Right.
It can grow at about 8 weeks, likes temperatures between 20-30 degrees C, and needs CO2 levels not exceeding 1,000 ppm during fruiting. That CO2 tolerance is important for enclosed systems.
Right, and the light.
The light is constant, and it appears pretty reliably about 5–10 minutes after exposure to darkness.
And are there native Puerto Rican species involved too? for maybe even better ecological integration?
Yes,
Hmm.
absolutely. The project also specifically highlights two native Puerto Rican species, Mycena luxuriperpetua and Mycena aspertilis. These species are also known for various parts of their structure glowing. Using native species reinforces the project's commitment to utilizing local, naturally adapted organisms where possible. That could enhance the resilience and ecological relevance of these bioluminescent habitats.
Makes sense. So, with these species identified, how did the Luminico project actually go about testing these ideas? What were their experimental designs, their methods? What were they trying to achieve in the lab and, beyond?
Their objectives were very clear and highly practical. First, validate the potential of this fungal bioluminescence for low-intensity light in a controlled setting. Second, design a functional habitat that could actually sustain these organisms long-term. And third, test prototypes out in natural environments, carefully documenting any changes or challenges. It was a very hands-on, iterative process, moving from pure science towards applied design.
Tell us about the cultivation techniques. Growing living light sounds like a really delicate process, probably needs specific conditions.
It absolutely is delicate. The researchers basically embarked on this quest to find the optimal recipe for growing these fungi. They explored different formulas, experimenting with various mixtures of malt extraction, potato starch, distilled water, agar, yeast, essentially trying different foods and growing environments.
And what did they find worked best?
They made a significant discovery. A pure culture substrate, basically the food source kept at room temperature, around 20 degrees C, showed robust mycelium growth in just 10 days. And crucially, it produced glowing fruits, the actual mushrooms, after about 4 weeks. This was a big validation for their approach to get consistent light production.
So the type of medium, the substrate, really matters for the glow itself. What happened if they used a different one?
Precisely. This was a key aha moment for them. They found that a liquid medium, even with a pure culture, did grow the mycelium, the fungal network, but it didn't emit bioluminescence.
No glow.
Exactly, no blow, which really emphasizes the critical importance of selecting not just the right organism, but the correct physical growing medium and the right environmental conditions to trigger and sustain that light emission. It's not just about keeping the organism alive, it's about giving it the exact biochemical cues it needs to actually glow.
That's a classic scientific finding, isn't it? A subtle change, but a huge difference in the outcome. And the actual inoculation process, how did they make sure the fungi grew correctly and stayed healthy? Preventing contamination must be a huge challenge in microbiology.
Oh, definitely. Their inoculation process was this detailed, multi-step protocol, heavily focused on sterility and precision.
Hmm?
You have to be meticulous with living cultures. First, all tools were sterilized meticulously with alcohol. Then, they carefully weighed out the nutrients, mixed them with water. This whole mixture was then pressure cooked for 30 minutes to ensure complete sterilization, kill off any competing bacteria or mold spores.
Okay, pressure cooking. Makes sense.
After it cooled, the prepared medium was carefully poured into sterilized petri dishes, often near an open flame or burner. The heat from the flame creates an updraft that helps draw away airborne contaminants. Yeah. Once the medium solidified, the pure fungal culture was introduced very carefully. Each sample was meticulously labeled date, nutrient name, culture type, and then sealed with paraffin film to prevent external contamination and stop it from drying out. Finally, the samples went into an incubator set at 20-30 degrees C and were monitored daily for growth and, of course, for the glow. This rigorous approach is just vital when working with living things to ensure success.
So they're growing these fungi not just in a pristine lab, but also trying it out in more real-world kind of home environments. How did they monitor the success there and understand what factors were influencing the glow outside the perfect lab?
They leverage smart technology for that environmental tracking. They use something called a smart citizen sensor. It's this portable device that meticulously tracks conditions like temperature, humidity, CO2 levels, all in real time.
Okay.
And critically, out of 4 cultures they grew at home under these precisely monitored conditions, 3 successfully glowed in the dark.
Wow, 3 out of 4 at home. That's pretty good.
It was a huge validation. It demonstrated the feasibility of growing these bioluminescent fungi outside a dedicated climate-controlled lab, as long as you have the right environmental controls in place and you're monitoring them. It really brings the possibility of living light much closer to everyday applications.
That's a huge step towards real-world use. But let's be realistic here. How bright are these glowing fungi actually? Are we talking about floodlights that could light up a street or something much softer?
Yeah, it's really crucial to manage expectations on luminosity. Bioluminescent fungi, as observed in the Luminico project, typically emit About 15-20 lumens per square foot.
Okay, 15-20 lumens per square foot. How does that compare to, say, a regular light bulb?
Well, a standard household 200 lumen LED bulb, maybe one you'd use in a small desk lamp, is significantly brighter. So these fungi are currently ideal for ambient light or low-intensity lighting. Think, tracing pathways in a park, creating a gentle atmosphere in a quiet space, providing subtle indicator lights, but not really for tasks needing bright illumination like reading or working or lighting up large outdoor areas.
Okay, so definitely mood lighting, not reading light territory yet.
Exactly. It's more about a new philosophy of light, one that's subtle, natural, integrates seamlessly with its environment, rather than being a direct replacement for high-intensity conventional lighting. Their brilliance really lies in their sustainability and that ethereal quality, not raw power.
So definitely not for lighting up a sports stadium, but perfect for maybe a gentle nightlight or marking a garden path. Given all this meticulous work, what were the biggest challenges they encountered, trying to harness these fungi and move beyond the lab towards real-world application?
Well, beyond the technicalities of cultivation and keeping the environment just right, one major hurdle they identified is a significant lack of useful, really actionable information about the full life cycles and the specific needs of these bioluminescent organisms, especially at a scale relevant for design and architecture.
So just a knowledge gap.
It's more than just a data gap. It's like a fundamental scientific frontier. We're talking about needing to unlock the biological blueprints to truly engineer these systems reliably at a commercial scale. It's a challenge that goes beyond just engineering. It involves fundamental biological discovery, long-term observation. This information gap creates a substantial market barrier to developing truly functional, long-lasting, and commercially viable products.
Right.
And furthermore, overcoming the inherent cost of production for these living materials, and crucially, extending the lifespan of the living light source itself. Those are ongoing challenges researchers are actively working on. The goal is to move beyond these cool experiments and make living lights economically viable and durable enough for widespread use.
It's incredible how much thought goes into not just the biology, but the actual architectural design of these living habitats. Let's move on to the conceptual design and fabrication parts of the Luminico project. What was the inspiration behind the physical design of this luminous habitat? How did they translate nature's elegance into a functional structure?
The initial design was really deeply inspired by nature itself, specifically by the organic growth patterns and textures you see in fungi, especially how they naturally grow on trees or decaying wood, forming these fascinating sort of layered structures.
Right, like shelf fungi.
Exactly. The aim was to create something that looked and felt inherent to nature, a seamless integration rather than some imposed artificial-looking thing. That biophilic approach, connecting with nature, was central right from the start.
And they settled on this really brilliant modular three-layer structure. Can you walk us through what each of those layers actually does and why that specific design?
Absolutely. It's quite clever. The outermost layer is described as a parametric 3D printed biomaterial skin. Now, parametric in design means its form and properties can be dynamically adjusted by algorithms, maybe based on input factors like environmental data.
Okay, so it's adaptable.
Potentially, yes.
Oh.
This skin is designed with specific properties to actively collect CO2 from the environment, acting like an air purifier.
Wow, the skin cleans the air.
That's the idea. And it's crucial because environmental pollution, particularly high CO2 levels, can directly mess with the brightness and the overall health of the delicate bioluminescence inside. So it's not just a beautiful, potentially adaptable facade, but an active participant in cleaning the urban atmosphere around it.
That's truly ingenious, a building component that literally helps clean the air while it glows. What about the middle layer then? What's its purpose?
The second layer is essentially a mesh structure. This is designed to hold the substrate, that organic material the fungi grow on, and it allows the fungal mycelium to really flourish, spreading its network and ultimately producing those glowing fruiting bodies.
So it holds the soil for the fungus.
Pretty much, yeah. And for projects that might consider using bioluminescent bacteria instead of fungi, our sources note they considered using a crystal vase in this layer. The idea was to potentially intensify the light through refraction, a clever way to maximize that soft glow and direct it outwards more effectively.
Okay. And the very core of this modular structure, what's right inside, making sure the organisms actually thrive.
The innermost layer is a 3D printed clay pot. But it's not just any pot. It's intricately designed with an embedded humidity sensor and internal channels. These channels allow for the precise delivery of water and vital nutrients directly to the fungal cultures.
So automated care.
Exactly. It allows for incredibly precise monitoring and maintenance of the living material, making sure the fungi have exactly what they need to thrive and keep glowing consistently. The overall aim of this modularity, as you can imagine, is to replace or significantly reduce the need for traditional low-intensity lights in urban spaces. And the modularity means these structures can be scaled up or down as needed for different environments. You could have small residential accents or larger public park installations. It makes them incredibly adaptable and versatile.
It's truly a living system, isn't it? Meticulously engineered within a structure. So they started with this conceptual design, but how did that actually translate into physical prototypes? What was that journey of prototyping and iteration like for Luminico? Moving from the idea to something tangible.
Yeah, the journey was definitely one of continuous refinement, learning as they went. The very first physical model they created was a 3D print of one of these modular units. It included a crystal container for water, mostly just to maintain humidity around the growing fungi. Initially, they thought, okay, maybe a simple mesh structure would be enough for the fungi to grow and glow.
But it wasn't that simple.
No. As they delved deeper, a significant concern popped up. Environmental pollution, particularly airborne contaminants in a city, could directly impact the delicate bioluminescence and the health of the organisms.
Ah, right. So they quickly realized they had to refine the design to actually protect the glowing organisms from that harsh urban environment.
Exactly. The design had to evolve pretty quickly to incorporate a much more controlled environment for the living material. They shifted towards using an opaque glass container, but with a filter at the top.
Okay, opaque glass with filter.
Yeah, this design lets some ambient light enter the system, which can be important for certain organisms and just for the overall aesthetic. But crucially, it helps maintain a more stable, controlled internal environment. It mitigates the harsh impact of external pollution on these delicate organisms. And they cleverly integrated an environmental monitoring sensor right at the base of this prototype, too.
To collect data.
Precisely. To get crucial real-time data on external pollution and CO2 levels. This allowed them to understand exactly which environmental factors were affecting the bioluminescence and then refine future designs based on that data.
And what did this iterative refinement eventually lead to? What was the final, more sophisticated terrarium design like? The one capable of sustaining these living lights for longer periods.
The evolution culminated in this highly sophisticated terrarium design, way beyond just simple pots. This final design features an inner container specifically for cultivating the fungus, ensuring its optimal growth. It's topped with this specialized cover that includes something called a self-healing injection port.
A self-healing port? What's that?
It's a critical innovation. It allows for the precise input of liquid malt extract and other nutrients without compromising the sterile environment inside. And it's designed to keep the fungus alive and glowing for anywhere from 3 months up to potentially a full year.
Wow, up to a year. That's a big jump.
It is. It significantly extends the lifespan of the living light source. There's also a carefully designed oxygen inlet, ensuring the fungi get the air they need for their metabolic processes. An ultrasonic mist sensor maintains optimal humidity levels inside the terrarium. And at the base, that smart citizen sensor with its own battery storage, continuously monitoring the internal environment. This whole integrated system ensures precise, automated control over the fungus's environment, allowing for consistent bioluminescence and that remarkable longevity.
That's a remarkable level of environmental control for a living light source, ensuring its vitality. But of course, taking any design from concept to reality always involves fabrication challenges. What were some of the hurdles they faced in actually building these prototypes, especially with the materials they chose, like clay?
Yeah, their initial attempt with clay 3D printing, while really promising for creating those organic forms, ran into a very common issue in ceramics, cracking during the drying process.
The shrinkage problem.
Exactly. Mostly due to excess water content and just uneven shrinkage in the clay as it dries. This meant they had to pivot pretty quickly to an alternative fabrication method that could still achieve the intricate, porous structures they envisioned for the habitat.
So what was the workaround? How did they manage to get those complex clay forms if the 3D printing wasn't working out initially?
They turned to a more traditional, meticulous craft technique,
Yeah.
creating an 8-part plaster mold and using slip casting.
Slip casting. Okay, how did that work?
It's quite involved. It starts with carefully mixing plaster, then applying mold release agents to the original model they want to replicate. Then they precisely poured the plaster in stages to create each of the 8 mold parts, waiting for each to dry before doing the next. Once the complete mold was ready, they'd meticulously join the parts together, often just with a strong rubber band.
Right.
Then liquid clay, which is known as slip, is poured into the assembled mold. It's left to sit for about 45 minutes to an hour. During that time, the porous plaster mold absorbs water from the slip right where it touches the walls. This causes a thin layer of clay to firm up against the inside of the mold.
Okay.
The excess liquid slip is then poured out. After some more drying time, the clay piece, which is now firmed up, can be carefully removed from the mold. Finally, the piece would be fired in a kiln at high temperature, transforming it into a durable, porous ceramic structure, perfectly suited for the habitat they designed. It was this neat combination of traditional craftsmanship with their modern digital design.
And for the transparent parts of the terrarium, like those inner containers, what fabrication method did they use there? That sounds pretty specialized too.
For the transparent inner containers, the project explored glass blowing. This is an ancient and highly skilled art form done at extremely high temperatures, typically around 1200 degrees Celsius.
Wow, hot.
It's very hot. They specifically use borosilicate glass, which you might know from lab glassware or older Pyrex. It's known for its high resistance to thermal shock, meaning it can handle temperature changes, and it can be reheated and reshaped multiple times.
Right.
The process involved joining individual glass rods or tubes, then heating and meticulously shaping them using specialized tools like pliers and tweezers, all while continuously blowing air into it to shape it. Critically, after shaping, the piece has to go through this slow, controlled cooling process called annealing. This prevents thermal stresses that could cause it to crack or break later.
Okay.
And a critical detail they discovered during prototyping was the absolute necessity of incorporating an air outlet in the glass pieces. Without one, the internal air pressure during the blowing process could just cause fractures.
Yeah.
So their final prototype specifically included 3 strategically placed holes, one for oxygen, one for that precise injection of nutrients in the self-healing port, and one to help manage humidity, all vital for maintaining the fungal environment inside.
So a really remarkable blend of cutting-edge biology, modern digital design, and even traditional craftsmanship like slip casting and glass blowing. Were there any other material explorations they considered? Maybe for the external skins of the habitats?
Yes, definitely. Showing their commitment to sustainable and innovative materials, the project also looked into 3D printing models using both PETG and hemp filaments. PETG is a durable, quite common, recyclable plastic used in 3D printing. And hemp filament, which is derived from plant fibers, offers a renewable and potentially biodegradable alternative. This ongoing exploration of diverse, environmentally conscious materials for the habitat's external skin really further aligns with the project's overarching ecological goals.
That's truly impressive, the blend of biology, engineering, and craft in the Luminica project. It gives us a fantastic insight into that habitat-scale bioluminescence. Now, let's maybe zoom out a bit from individual habitats to a broader urban scale. Looking at how bacteria are being used to light up entire cities or parts of them. This brings us to that pioneering French startup Glowy.
Glowy, yeah, they've truly been at the forefront of applying bioluminescence for larger-scale urban lighting, at least conceptually and in early trials. Back in 2019, the picturesque town of Rambouillet, France, it's about 60 kilometers south of Paris, effectively became their full-scale bioluminescence laboratory.
A whole town as a lab.
Well, parts of it. They successfully tested pathways illuminated by this soft, ethereal turquoise light emitted by bacteria. It was a really visionary project that aimed to prove the viability of biolighting in a real-world urban setting. Now, it's worth noting the company itself later faced financial challenges, which isn't uncommon for pioneers in radically new tech.
Sure, that happens.
But their early work really laid critical groundwork for this whole field.
So how does Glowy's bacterial lighting actually work? What's the mechanism behind those glowing tubes we saw pictures of? And how do they, turn it on and off?
It's quite ingenious, really. Glowy harnessed Aliivibrio fischeri bacteria. It's a marine bacterium famous for its bioluminescent properties. These bacteria are cultivated and then stored in these custom-designed plastic tubes filled with salt water. Essentially, they create a living, self-contained bioreactor.
Okay.
The light gets turned on simply by feeding the bacteria basic nutrients and ensuring there's a supply of oxygen. This kicks off their natural metabolic reaction, causing them to emit that characteristic light.
And turning it off.
To turn off the light, they just interrupt the oxygen supply. This sends the organisms into an anaerobic state, meaning without oxygen, which effectively halts the light-producing reaction. But importantly, without harming the bacteria, they just go dormant.
So no constant electrical input is needed once it's set up.
Exactly. Only periodic nourishment, like feeding them, and that controlled aeration for the organisms. It makes it potentially incredibly energy efficient compared to grid-powered lights.
That sounds incredibly sustainable then. A real departure from conventional electric grids. What are the key environmental or operational benefits claimed for these biolamps compared to traditional lighting?
The potential sustainable benefits are pretty profound. First, these biolamps could have a potentially infinite lifespan. As long as the bacterial cultures are properly nourished and maintained, they continually reproduce and glow, which could eliminate the need for frequent bulb replacements and all the associated waste.
Right. No dead bulbs to dispose of.
Exactly. And they are completely natural, which means avoiding the environmental impact of manufacturing complex electronic components for LEDs or fluorescents, and the challenges of disposing of those traditional fixtures at the end of their life. Glowy claimed their manufacturing process consumed significantly less energy than producing comparable LED lights.
Less energy to make and run.
That was the claim. They argued the biolamps required substantially less electricity to operate than even the least power-intensive public lighting solutions available, mainly because the bacteria themselves create the light directly from chemical energy. That reduces reliance on fossil fuel-derived electricity.
So what's the real-world impact of these lights right now, or the future plans for scaling this kind of tech? Are we talking about lighting up major highways soon, or is it still more, ambient?
Yeah, the key takeaway right now is still the luminosity, which really informs their best application. Glowy's fixtures, like the fungi we discussed, emit about 15-20 lumens per square meter.
Okay, same range as the fungi then.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And again, for perspective, a typical household 220 lumen LED bulb puts out around 111 lumens per square meter. So yes, they're currently much more suited for ambient light, tracing pathways, warning signals, subtle indications in public spaces like parks, pedestrian zones, maybe even indoor settings like theaters, rather than the bright functional illumination you need for driving or task-oriented work.
So it creates a mood, an atmosphere.
Exactly. They offer this soft, immersive glow that really prioritizes atmosphere and ecological harmony over just raw brightness.
That's a good clarification. But I imagine companies like Glowy and others in this space are actively working to improve that brightness, pushing the boundaries of what these organisms can do.
Oh, absolutely. That's a major focus of the research. Glowy, for instance, was actively researching ways to enhance the maximum brightness by experimenting with factors like optimizing the water temperature, tweaking the nutrient composition, even adjusting the pressure within their bioreactors. Anything to boost the bacterial metabolic activity and thus the light output. Sandra Ray, Glowy's founder, articulated this really clear and ambitious vision to fundamentally change how cities use light, aiming to create an ambiance that not only respects citizens and the environment, but actually enhances biodiversity. She wanted to establish a whole new philosophy of light, one that's living and dynamic. And despite the company's later difficulties, they were actively working with around 40 cities interested in testing this technology between 2023 and 2027. That indicates a strong, growing market interest and a significant push towards integrating these biosolutions into mainstream urban planning, even if the path isn't always smooth.
It's clear that bacteria are playing a big role, but are there other innovations happening, maybe involving plants or different bacterial approaches to lighting our urban fabric? The field seems incredibly diverse.
It truly is. There are several really exciting avenues being explored simultaneously. Another French company called Woodlight is exploring an even more ambitious goal, transferring bioluminescence from marine microorganisms directly into plants.
Into plants, like making trees glow.
Exactly. Their audacious vision is to bioengineer plants, glowing trees, glowing shrubs that could potentially replace public lighting entirely someday. Now, to prevent any unwanted ecological side effects, like these genes spreading where they shouldn't.
Yeah, that sounds important.
Very. These engineered plants would be designed to be infertile and dependent on specific controlled growth processes. The aim is for these engineered plants to be, ideally, 100% recyclable, and maybe even contribute to depollution by processing CO2, creating this multifunctional, living urban fixture.
That's truly incredible, the idea of bioengineered glowing trees. What about other ways of harvesting energy from nature? Not directly bioluminescent, but maybe bio-inspired for urban energy.
Right, there's the Spanish company Bio. They take a different but equally innovative approach, focusing more on bioenergy generation. They're developing these garden panels that essentially act as soil batteries.
Soil batteries, how does that work?
These panels generate electricity from the natural metabolic processes of bacteria already living in the soil. As these bacteria break down organic matter, they release hydrogen ions. And the panels harvest this electrochemical potential, generating a current.
Wow. How much power can they get?
Well, for instance, a 49 square meter patch of these panels can generate about 15 watt-hours per day, which is enough, they say, to power small LED lamps day and night, provided there's proper irrigation for the soil microbes. So while it's not directly bioluminescent, it showcases another compelling path for sustainable bioenergy generation within cities, effectively turning green spaces into living power plants.
And I vaguely remember hearing about MIT doing something with glowing plants a few years back. Was that related to all this?
You're absolutely right to remember that. Earlier research from MIT back in 2017 involved injecting luminescent chemicals similar to the ones used by fireflies directly into plant leaves. They got them to glow for a few hours.
Ah, chemicals, not genetics.
Right, it was more of a chemical engineering feat at the time, rather than biological engineering like Woodlight is attempting. But it definitely opened up the conceptual possibility and got people thinking. There's also the broader Glowing Plant Project, which is more of a citizen science initiative aiming to design flora that lights up through genetic engineering. These diverse initiatives really underscore a broader global interest in making plants a fundamental part of our future lighting and maybe even energy infrastructure. And some visionary designers are taking these concepts right into our interior spaces too, aren't they? Blurring the lines between art, biology, and function.
Yes, that's where things get really experiential and intimate. The Dutch designer Theresa van Dongen has a project called Living Light. It features these beautiful glass lamps powered by bioluminescent bacteria suspended in a liquid medium. And these lamps react subtly to gentle movement or when they're fed, showing this living pulse of light.
Similarly, there's the biolight concept. This explores entire architectural elements,
Right.
walls made of hand-blown glass cells, each containing live bacterial cultures. And the really fascinating part is these cultures are designed to be fed by methane and composted waste generated from a larger integrated microbial home system.
A closed loop. Waste powers the light.
Exactly. It creates this fascinating closed-loop system where waste actually generates ambient light. This suggests a completely new genre of living biological products that are self-energizing, adaptive, responsive to their environmental conditions, fundamentally blurring the lines between nature and technology within our homes and public spaces. It points towards truly dynamic living architecture.
This entire conversation really highlights how biotechnology is becoming such a transformative force in architecture, doesn't it? It's no longer just about designing static structures. It's really about integrating life itself into our built environment.
No, it's a really profound paradigm shift. It's redefining what a building can even be. Biotechnology is rapidly integrating living organisms and biological processes directly into the built environment. And this is absolutely critical because, let's face it, traditional buildings have an enormous environmental footprint. They account for a staggering 40% of global energy consumption.
40%.
Yeah, and generate a huge amount of waste throughout their life cycle, from construction to demolition. Biotechnology offers genuinely innovative pathways to fundamentally address these issues, moving us towards a truly sustainable and even regenerative architecture.
And this seems to align perfectly with something called biophilic design, which I think we've touched on before. That idea of connecting humans back to nature. Can you tell us more about that important connection?
You've hit on a crucial point there. This profound shift towards bio-integrated architecture aligns strongly with biophilic design principles. Biophilia, simply put, is that innate human tendency to connect with nature and other forms of life.
Our need for nature.
Exactly. The goal of biophilic design is to enhance human well-being, health, and productivity by integrating natural elements, patterns, and processes into our built spaces. Bioluminescent lighting, with its soft, natural, dynamic glow, taps directly into this. It offers this restful, non-invasive light source that can improve mood, reduce stress, maybe even enhance productivity by mimicking natural light cycles and rhythms. It fosters a deeper, more harmonious relationship between people and their surroundings, moving way beyond mere aesthetics to fundamental human well-being.
So biotechnology in architecture goes far beyond just providing light, right?
Huh?
What are some of the other key applications that are fundamentally changing how we build, from the materials themselves to entire building system?
Oh, it definitely broadens the scope massively. It's moving buildings from being these inert objects to being active participants in environmental solutions. Beyond just living light, biotechnology is revolutionizing several key areas, each offering transformative potential. Well, one huge area is sustainable materials. Imagine moving away from energy-intensive concrete and steel. We're now seeing the development of things like biobricks.
Biobricks.
Yeah, these can be made from bacteria that bind sand or other aggregates together, effectively growing bricks at ambient temperatures with minimal energy input.
Yeah.
Or consider mycelium-based composites materials grown from fungi, often using agricultural waste as a food source.
Right, mushroom materials.
Exactly. These materials are incredibly appealing because they're renewable, often biodegradable, and have a significantly lower carbon footprint compared to traditional materials. Some can even sequester CO2 during their growth phase, literally locking atmospheric carbon into the building itself. Our sources highlight that these biomaterials can offer surprising durability, good fire resistance, and excellent insulation properties. They really promote a circular economy in construction materials, can be grown, used, and then potentially returned safely to the earth.
That sounds like a complete game changer for construction waste and resource depletion. Buildings being grown rather than just manufactured. What else is happening?
Then you have adaptive facades. Think of buildings that intelligently respond to environmental conditions in real time. They draw inspiration directly from nature's elegant adaptive mechanisms, like how our skin regulates temperature or how plant leaves turn to optimize sunlight capture.
Okay.
These facades use responsive bio-inspired materials that could be integrated microorganisms or smart polymers that change their properties. They might alter their transparency, their insulation value, even their air filtration capabilities automatically. For example, a facade might become less transparent in response to intense sunlight, reducing heat gain passively, or it might open microscopic pores to allow for natural ventilation when the outdoor air quality is good. This actively optimizes energy efficiency and occupant comfort, often without complex mechanical systems.
So buildings that can breathe, react, maybe even think like living things. What about integrating living organisms more directly into the structure for more active environmental benefits?
That's where living architecture comes in, really pushing the boundaries of integration. This involves actively embedding and cultivating living organisms like algae, moss, various plants directly into building systems, on facades, roofs, even interior walls.
Green walls, but maybe more advanced?
Exactly, but potentially much more functional. Their purpose is multifunctional. They can purify the air by absorbing pollutants, capture CO2 through photosynthesis, filter wastewater, and significantly enhance urban biodiversity by providing habitats for insects and birds. Some really cutting-edge designs even feature algae-filled bioreactors integrated right into the building skin. These can actually generate renewable energy through photosynthesis, transforming buildings into potential energy producers rather than just consumers. It's about designing buildings as active ecological systems.
And the idea of buildings actually fixing themselves, that sounds like something straight out of the most advanced science fiction. Is that really possible?
It's rapidly becoming a reality with self-healing structures. These are buildings designed with intrinsic capabilities to autonomously repair damage, mimicking the incredible regenerative abilities we see in living organisms after an injury. It involved developing new bio-inspired materials and often leveraging microbial-mediated repair processes. For example, specific types of bacteria can be embedded within concrete. When a microcrack forms and water seeps in, it activates the bacteria. They then precipitate minerals, like calcium carbonate, essentially limestone, which grows and fills the crack, sealing it and preventing further degradation.
Wow, bacteria as concrete repair crews.
Pretty much. And genetic engineering is also being explored to enhance these self-repairing capabilities, potentially allowing materials to sense and respond to damage even more effectively. This could drastically extend the lifespan of our infrastructure and reduce the constant need for maintenance and repair.
It's like the building's own immune system, always on guard. And finally, you mentioned biomimicry earlier. How does biotechnology fit into that broader philosophy of design, learning from nature?
Biomimicry in construction is about drawing direct, profound inspiration from nature's billions of years of R&D, basically. Biotechnology allows us to emulate biological systems and processes at a much deeper, more functional level than just copying shapes. This includes things like structural optimization, where buildings are designed to maximize strength-to-weight ratios, much like bones or seashells do, achieving incredible efficiency with minimal material.
Okay.
It also extends to exploring self-assembly processes, where materials might organize themselves into complex structures with minimal human intervention, mimicking how biological systems grow and develop. And crucially, it enables advanced environmental sensing, where buildings can sense and respond to their surroundings in dynamic, energy-efficient ways, inspired by how natural organisms interact with their environments. It makes them inherently more adaptive and sustainable.
So tying this all back to our central topic today, bioluminescence, what's the broader vision for these bioluminescent architectural features when you combine all these different threads of biotechnology? How does this living light integrate into this really transformative future of architecture?
The broader vision is incredibly compelling. It moves bioluminescence beyond just being a novelty light source to becoming a fundamental part of how we conceive and interact with light in our built spaces. It involves, first, the direct use of living organisms as light sources, whether that's algae, bacteria, or fungi. These could be integrated directly into self-sustaining installations, perhaps even genetically engineered down the line to optimize for specific colors, intensities, or responsiveness to environmental cues.
Right, and beyond using the living organisms directly.
Well, it's also about the development of synthetic bioluminescent materials. Think engineered proteins or nanoparticles that can emit light when they're activated by specific stimuli. Maybe pressure changes, temperature fluctuations, maybe even specific chemicals. This offers immense flexibility in design, allowing light to be embedded within surfaces, textiles, or structures in entirely new, dynamic ways.
That really opens up the possibilities, doesn't it? Making light a dynamic, embedded feature, not just a fixture.
Exactly. And it extends to applications like circadian lighting, which is a huge potential benefit for human health. By harnessing the natural quality of bioluminescence, perhaps combining it with smart controls, we could create lighting systems that precisely mimic natural daylight cycles, the soft yellows of dawn, the cooler blues of midday, back to the warm hues of dusk.
Tuning our indoor light to match the outdoors.
Precisely. This promotes healthy circadian rhythms, our natural sleep-wake cycles. That leads to improved sleep quality, enhanced mood, better overall well-being in indoor environments. It directly addresses some of the negative health effects associated with static artificial lighting that we live under so much.
And what about more practical, maybe safety-focused applications out in public spaces?
Imagine environmental signaling and dynamic wayfinding. Bioluminescent pathways that subtly brighten as you approach. Signage or emergency markers that adapt to changing light conditions or even react to the presence of people. This could provide really intuitive navigation and enhance safety, particularly in low-light settings like theaters, subway stations, or public parks at night. They wouldn't just be static signs, but dynamic guides, adding this layer of intuitive responsiveness to how we navigate our cities.
And ultimately, what does this all mean for sustainability on the grand scale? Where does bioluminescence fit in the big picture?
Ultimately, these bioluminescent features represent a significant, potentially transformative step towards ultimate sustainability. They could drastically reduce our reliance on conventional electric lighting. That, in turn, minimizes energy consumption and significantly lowers our carbon footprint. And once established, these living light systems often require minimal maintenance compared to replacing bulbs and managing complex electrical infrastructure. It really contributes to a truly circular and ecologically responsible built environment. It's about creating buildings that are not just energy efficient, but actively contribute to a healthier planet and foster a deeper, more mindful relationship with the natural world around us.
Wow. Okay, we've really journeyed from the microscopic world of glowing fungi and bacteria, understanding the specific biochemistry, the precise environmental controls needed, all the way to these grand architectural concepts that integrate living light into our homes and cities at an unprecedented scale.
Yeah, it's quite a spectrum.
We've seen how groundbreaking projects like Lumenico and the pioneering work of companies like Glowy, even with their challenges, aren't just creating beautiful aesthetics. They're actively trying to address critical environmental issues from carbon emissions to light pollution, all while fostering this deeper, more profound connection with nature.
It truly redefines what we might think a building can be, moving them from static structures towards being dynamic, living, breathing ecosystems that can actually get back to the environment and enhance our own well-being.
So what does this all mean for us? You know, the people who eventually inhabit these spaces. This raises a really important question, I think. If our buildings can become living, breathing, even glowing entities, how might that fundamentally change our relationship with the spaces we inhabit? What kind of future cities do you envision, illuminated perhaps by the gentle, evolving pulse of life itself? And how might that shape your daily experience?
It's a future where architecture might not just be about constructing inert objects, but maybe more about cultivating, caring for, and genuinely coexisting with nature within our walls. A kind of symbiotic relationship where our spaces aren't just shelter, but living partners in our collective well-being. It's a fascinating thought.
A truly luminous revolution, potentially. Join us next time on The Deep Dive as we continue to explore the most fascinating insights hiding in plain sight.